speak to that same thing about the reason why God's people were in the fix that they were in is because of disobedience and idolatry, and that they were aligning themselves with gods and doing things that the Lord had instructed them not to do. And Israel, here in chapter 4 in the book of Judges, was in a state of oppression and defeat and despair. They were in that valley. It was due to their disobedience and their serving other gods. Their former judge, Ehud, was dead. And the Lord had raised him up in Judges chapter 3 to be the judge over Israel. And he was called a deliverer at that time. And because the children were going through a bad time, the Lord put Ehud in place to help them out, to make sure that they stayed on track. But now Ehud is dead. And so what do? They go back doing what they used to do. The wrong thing. The wrong thing. And we find when we study about the judge Ehud that he was a son of Gera, a Benjamite, and that he was a man, a left-handed man, and that he was the second judge of Israel. We study about Ehud's life as a judge. We find that he was a man of direct action. He was strong, and he was a disciplined leader. And he led the revolt against the Moabite domination and gave Israel 80 years of peace. And some perceived him as a radical leader. The Canaanites had conquered and oppressed Israel for 20 years. Now we find in this chapter, Ehud is dead, he's gone, he's not there to deliver them anymore. So the Canaanites had conquered and oppressed Israel for 20 years. And the Lord, even as we was discussing in the foundation in the Word this morning, the Lord sold Israel into the hand of Jabin, king of Canaan. And so they were under oppression by the captain of Jabin's army, Sisera. So in Judges chapter 4, I'm just going to read these first few verses. It said, when Ehud was dead, the children of Israel again did evil in the sight of the Lord. So the Lord sold them into the hand of Jabin, king of Canaan, who reigned in Hazor. The commander of his army was Sisera, who dwelt in Harosheth Hagoyim. Verse 3, and the children of Israel cried out to the Lord, for Jabin had 900 chariots of iron, and for 20 years he had harshly oppressed the children of Israel. So we find Israel going into a circle again of disobedience and being held in captivity because of that disobedience. Because as we were discussing this morning in Foundation in the Word, the Lord continued to teach us, to continue to show us. He's given his word. He said, this is the way you are to go. He sent his prophet, he sent his pastors, teachers, evangelists. This is the way you're supposed to go. And when people persist in being disobedient, then the Lord just turn you over to your disobedient self. And that's not a good place to be in. And so it is in this 4th chapter of the book of Judges. Israel is in the valley of despair, defeat, depression, bondage, due to their own disobedience. Because Ehud is dead, the judge, and so I guess they felt that they could just big and bad enough to do what they wanted to do. They didn't have to listen to anyone. Although they had been taught these are the right things to do, they chose not to. And so this captain of Jabin's army, Sisera, was a mean, bad boy. And this word talks about the chariots of iron that this King Jabin had access to. And here Israel they are foot soldiers. And you can imagine what these chariots did to them. Understand, they had blades coming out from the wheels of the chariot. So as the chariot's rolling, they're cutting up. Folks, what a horrible way to die. So, disobedience will lead you down some paths that you don't want to go. And when we study this word, we find that Israel was under the oppression of this particular enemy because of their failure to obey God, according to Numbers chapters 13 and 14, wherein God told them it was time to occupy the land He promised to them when He delivered them from Egyptian slavery, the land of Canaan, a land flowing with milk and honey. In other words, not literally milk and honey, but it was a good and it was a prosperous land. They had plenty of food and plenty of provisions. And at that time, 12 men were sent to spy out the land. Remember the word? And the majority of those men brought back bad reports. They were afraid of the inhabitants, the land that the Lord said, you're to go into this land, but they scared. But 2 men, Caleb and Joshua, trusted God at that time to deliver the inhabitants of the land of Canaan into the hands of Israel. And when they said, yes, we can go, we can take them. But the folks got upset and they wanted to stone Moses and Aaron. So God said, I have a plan for you. Because of your disobedience, it's not Aaron and Moses who's telling you to do this. Yes, they are my mouthpiece, but I'm the one. I'm speaking through them, telling them to tell you it's time to occupy the land.